Good evening, good morning, good night to some. How are we doing? Day two of free agency. Well, it's really the legal tampering period, but we call it free agency period. Tomorrow's the official day of free agent, the league new year. Free agency actually starts tomorrow, 4 p.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. So all these deals that we've heard about today and yesterday, all these crazy deals are actually going to become official tomorrow. So today was a wild day in terms of the 49ers losing players. And I know Niner fans are kind of in a tizzy, I guess. But, you got to think about it this way. The 49ers have a specific way they go about business. They go and they get these top tier elite players. We have Fred Warner, George Kittle, Debo, and Trent Williams and Nick Bosa, and they get paid. They're going to go and you're not going to lose your key players. Christian McCaffrey, you're going to make sure you pay the heart and soul of your team, your core players. And then they get these nice draft picks. They develop players. You go and get, compensatory picks. You lose coaches, you lose players. When you lose coaches and you lose players, you get comp picks. And the 49ers do a great job of gathering those picks, drafting in the late round, and developing those players. They get undrafted players, and they become the next group of rotational players. And I guess they're like mid-tier players. They're really good. They're depth pieces. They're not elite. They're on the cusp of being really good, but they're okay to let them leave because they're going to get paid well. The 49ers develop them, and they can go blossom and spread their wings on another team. Players like last year, Laken Thompson, you got DJ Jones this year, Emmanuel Mosley, Aziz Al-Shahir, good players, Samson Ebicam, Charles Omenihu. I'm so happy they all got paid, but the 49ers can plug and play. They're going to replace these players. It is tough as a fan to see them go, but 49ers will be able to replace them because that's what they do. They develop this talent, and that's what the Niners are good at. Losing players, developing players, and replacing those players that left with the next group of middle tier kind of guys that are going to step in and become quality players. They get them out of the draft, they get them in free agency, they get them, undrafted. So it's just a way they develop, and that's pretty much what happened today. Very interesting day. It's tough when you see the players leave. You're like, oh man, but you got to remember, every year players leave, they come and go, and that's what it is. We're going to see a new group of players next year step up. We lose Amenahu, we lose Ebicam, but we're going to have Drake Jackson next year. We want him to get more snaps. He'll take a big leap. The year before they lost, Jaquaski Tart, and here it comes Talanoa Hufanga to the rescue, and it is tough, but I'm pretty sure the 49ers will be okay. So let's talk about everything that happened today. I want to recap the day. That was my little speech of getting you guys pepped up because there's a lot of people that are in their feelings today. I get it. I love these players too, but you can't get emotional. I talked to some of them behind the scenes. I wish them all good luck, and they're all happy to be, getting new opportunities, and a lot of them deserve a bigger role. And some players like Ebukam and Charles Omenihu, I don't know if they're even going to be as good as they were with the 49ers because look, Omenihu and Ebukam, they had Chris Kasurik, the best defensive line coach. People got to remember that we have a guy, Chris Kasurik, that gets people paid. Chris Kasurik should get a percentage of the contracts of Omenihu, of Ebicam, of Arden Key, Kerry Hyder, all these guys that he's developed and said, go get rich off of me. He needs to get a bag from them. So, how the hell is everybody doing after that little intro? That's how you start a show, right? That's how you get a little pep talk from your boy. How the heck is everybody doing tonight? Let's see some comments. Mimi says it'll be good when it all comes together at just the front office. 100% cosign. I agree with that. Jason says, hey, Rod, what made you want to make content with addition to your job? What made me want to be a content creator? Man, I love this team. I just love doing it. I've always loved the 49ers. And honestly, before I got into the medical field and got into working where I work, I was always into sports media. When I was a kid, man, I used to turn down the volume on Madden or whatever game I'd be playing, and I'd do the commentary. I just would be a sports junkie. I was into fantasy sports, always grinding stats and I always loved sports. My dad loved sports, and he got me into sports, and I always wanted to be in sports media. I wrote for the newspaper in college, but at the time, it just didn't pay the bills, and I saw more, a better future with the medical field because people, unfortunately, are always sick, and you always are going to have a job no matter what. My job is secure. I can get a job any city, any country I go to because I'm a licensed doctor of physical therapy. But I love sports, I love medical field, and now I do them both. So good stuff, man. Um, been rocking with me for years. I appreciate you, Gleek. I really, I do appreciate all the support. Actually, before we get into anything else, honestly, it's been a fun couple of days. I really love doing this, being a content creator, and all the support I get. It's very encouraging because this is not my main source of what I do. I am a physical therapist and I do work, and it's tough to do both. But this week, being able to be home and create, covering the team and creating content and stuff. It's been so much fun. So truly appreciate the support. Make sure you smash that like button. Hit that like button if you like the stuff. So let's get right into it. So the first news of the day that happened, we get right up. We wake up bright and early. I check my phone as we always do, and Charvarius Ward gets a contract restructure. That was the first news of the day. You gotta love it, man. I was like, something's cooking. John Lynch is cooking, because they needed to make some moves today or solidify some players that they had to get. And Charvarius Ward, boom, contract extension. Sorry, not extension, restructure. And basically, what they did, they converted $12.4 million of his salary cap into a bonus. They added 3 voidable years, and they moved the money to the back of the contract, and it gave him about $9.9 million of cap space, a shade under $10 million, and that was the first move of the day, and that was nice to hear. So you knew that something was cooking in the pot, and boom, the first move of the day was Jake Brendel. He signs a 4-year deal. And then Ian Rappaport reported that the 49ers gave him a 4-year deal worth $20 million. He got $8 million guaranteed. Good deal. And, I really like the Jake Brendel move because it gives us stability at center. 49ers have had a different center every damn year, it seems like. And I think they have with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Every year, it's a new center, and it just drives me insane. We had Weston Richburg, paid him a lot of money. He couldn't stay healthy. They got Alex Mack, great. And then he goes and retires on us, and we've been searching for stability, and it came in the source of Jake Brendel, 4 years, $20 million, $8 million guaranteed. And, I talked about this earlier. I feel really good for Jake Brendel because he bounced around the league a lot. He never really was able to get a job. He was an undrafted free agent. He tried to get a spot on a team. In 2018, he got some spot starts because of injuries on the Dolphins, and then he got released. He's been bouncing around. The 49ers had him on the team since 2020. He kind of learned the system, and then he finally got an opportunity when Alex Mack retired, and he took the most of it. He's 30 years old and got his first multi-year contract in the NFL. That's to me, that's dope, man. I gotta respect Jake Brendel for bagging up, man. He got a nice first multi-year contract after many years in the league at 30 years old, man. I salute Jake Brendel for that. Pretty dope. That's pretty dope that he got that contract. So that was the first big deal. And I like Jake Brendel. I think it's a solid move. But one thing I'll say today, I do feel like the 49ers depth at O-line needs more improvement. I like Jake Brendel coming back. I know they got Nick Zakelj. I know they have Jason Pope. Those are young guys, and they're going to expect them to really step up. But Colton McKivitz at right tackle, I'm a little worried. I don't know. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I really hope I do, because Aaron Banks proved me wrong last year, and I want Colton McKivitz to prove me wrong, because right now I still feel that the 49ers need to bulk up their O-line, because last year we had all the quarterbacks get hurt. You lost some linemen this year, and we were talking about in the offseason, the 49ers need to strengthen their O-line. I really don't feel like they've strengthened their O-line. Another guy that we lost tonight, let's get to that, was Dan Brunskill. Dan Brunskill went to the Tennessee Titans. Aaron Donald's father, Dan Brunskill, went to the Titans. He got a 2-year deal. Shout out to Dan Brunskill, man. Unbelievable, that the Titans are making all these moves on our former players. But then you remember, is their GM. Rand Carthon used to be on the 49ers front office, and he's coming in and cleaning house. I thought it was going to be D'Amico Ryans taking all of our players, but it's Rand Carthon. So you remember we talked about this in the offseason. Other teams are going to be looking and poaching our players because they have Rand Carthon, D'Amico Ryans, Robert Salah, Mike McDaniel. All those guys are going to take our players. Oh, and Martin Mayhew in Washington. So Dan Brunskill goes to the Titans. And to me, honestly, I know we lost other players, and everybody's sad for like Jimmy Ward and Manny Mosley, and I am too. To me, the biggest loss, in my opinion, is actually Dan Brunskill because this guy could play every position on the line. And again, he made Aaron Donald have nightmares. He gave Aaron Donald nightmares. You know what I mean? He gave him like I'm not gonna lie. Dan Brunskill was in his bag when he played against the Rams, and this guy could play guard. He could play tackle. He could play center. Not good at center, but he could play it. So underrated, man. And the guy was nice because if there was an injury, which sometimes it happens, 49ers have a lot of injuries. If there's an injury to the line, Brunskill can be applied into that lineup right away, all the time. Um, anytime you needed some help online, if there's an injury, you can put Dan Brunskill anywhere. And that to me is a big loss. To me, that is the biggest loss of the 49ers free agents today was Dan Brunskill. I really liked him. I think he was a very, very valuable, versatile chess piece the 49ers had. He was good. But, shout out to him. He goes to a team that can really utilize him as a starter because the 49ers didn't value him as a starter. It's not that they didn't value, it's more that they didn't envision him as a starter because he's a depth piece, like we just said, a guy that you can plug and play. But the Titans are going to use him as a starter. So shout out to Brunskill. He's going to get a starting job with the Titans. And again, you got to respect these players. They're going to move up. They're going to get more opportunities on another team. So it's good for him to, get his new opportunity. Mimi says Ward was like that on the defensive side. Yeah, that's a good comparison. I think you're right. I think Dan Brunskill is kind of like the Jimmy Ward of the offensive line. He's the Swiss Army knife, right? Just like Kyle Juszczyk. We call him the Swiss Army knife on the offense. He can play tight end. He's a fullback. He plays like a lineman. He does a lot of stuff, and that's what Dan Brunskill did. He did a lot of stuff. Jimmy Ward, he did a lot of stuff. He could play a lot of positions. The 49ers value players that are versatile, that can do a lot for you because they can plug and play, move you around, and they can save money if they can play you at another position. And not only that, players get hurt. And if you can do multiple things, you're more valuable to the 49ers. They like to have players that are very versatile. And Jimmy Ward was one of those guys, and Dan Brunskill is one of those guys. They're just a jack of all trades. So, gotta love it. So yeah, Brunskill was a guy that left, and then again, Rand Carthon snagged him up. Speaking of Rand Carthon, he took another 49er, ending the linebacker trio of Greenlaw, Warner, and Azeez Al-Shaair. Azeez Al-Shaair definitely, again, Deanna Rossini, she reported today that Azeez Al-Shaair will be signing with the Tennessee Titans. And, I'm pretty sure they're going to make him their star linebacker. He deserves that spot to be a linebacker one on a team, right? He deserves to be a linebacker one on a team, like a Fred Warner type guy. And I respect Azeez, man. This guy was an undrafted free agent. He worked his way up the roster just like Manny Mosley, and he became a really quality player for the team. He could be a starter. And I remember we were sitting here talking over in the offseason, and I said, this guy could be a starter on any team, on any team. He could be a starter on any team. And now he's going to be a starter on the Tennessee Titans defense. And he deserves whatever he's going to get paid. And he deserves to become a starter because, with the 49ers, you had Greenlaw, you have Warner and Azeez. They kind of take away from his full potential. And the 49ers do a really good job of A, drafting linebackers, B, developing linebackers, and plugging and playing them into that lineup. So they have Oren Burks, a special teamer, and they have this guy, Marcelino McCrary-Ball. I think Marcelino McCrary-Ball is the guy that's going to come in and they're going to really develop him and get him in. Again, the 49ers are going to be able to replace Azeez. Maybe not right away. I don't know if Ball's going to be just as good as Azeez right away, but he will develop into that talented type player. Again, Azeez was an undrafted free agent. McCrary-Ball's an undrafted free agent, and they brought him back a couple weeks ago. And this is a good question from Debtopia. She says, does any other team develop UDFAs as us? The 49ers develop undrafted free agents like nobody's business. Look at the years. You've had Manny Mosley. You have Azeez Al-Shaair. You had, Matt Breida was an undrafted free agent. Jeff Wilson. And all these guys are quality players around the league. There's more to it. There's more than that. Those are just a couple of guys off the top of my head. those guys were undrafted, and the 49ers have developed them to become very quality players in the league. So, the 49ers, I know they can develop another linebacker. They're going to do it. They've done it before many times. And again, Aziz, great player, but I feel like he's replaceable, and he will move on. He'll get his starting shot on the Titans. He's going to do very good, and the 49ers will be able to replace him. It's tough to see him go. I get it. It's as a fan, it's tough, but that's a guy that can be replaced because the 49ers have done it time and time and time again. So let me see. Let me see if there's any news real quick before we continue to go further. Uh, wow, Dave Lombardi just tweeted, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary on the night the 49ers signed both Trent Williams and Alex Mack. Yeah. Let's hope something big happens tonight. We're going to stay up tonight. We ain't going to sleep. The 2 nights ago, or 2 years ago, the anniversary of Trent Williams and Alex Mack. Crazy, man. Let's get back to the stuff. Blood Moon says, with all the comp picks, from what I hear, there's a limit. But come on, trade for Joey. I would love to trade for Joey Bosa. And there is a limit. As there is a limit, Blood Moon, but the 49ers will get the max amount of compensatory picks. So that's a good point. The 49ers were losing players, but as I said, as I opened the show, is 49ers are going to be able to replace those players eventually with compensatory picks and develop them as they continue to go through the years. They will probably get 4 compensatory picks, 4 or 5, I believe, compensatory picks next year, based on where these players, end up and their contracts and everything. So 49ers will be able to replace these people that they've lost with compensatory picks. So, it's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, the 49ers know that, and they know they're going to be able to load up on these picks, and next year they'll be able to, boom, add some more talent. Like this year, you have 11 draft picks. That's a lot. You can move up in the draft. You can utilize these players to keep on adding talent to your roster that you could develop. So, Debtopia says, as a fan, I get emotionally attached to these guys. I think we all do. As a fan, it's easy because we see them work. We see how much, effort they put in. They talk to the fans. They sign autographs. They go on social media, and you see how hard they're playing. They're playing for your favorite team, the San Francisco 49ers, and you see them make big plays. You see them make interceptions, touchdowns, and you root for them. So it's hard. It's easy to get attached. It's easy to say, oh man, they're gone. You root for these guys, and nobody loves change. A lot of change is tough. Change is tough in the world, and whenever we go through change, you're uncertain. You don't know if the next group of guys that come in are going to be as good. It's not a guarantee that whoever's going to replace these guys are going to be as good, because again, you get attached, and it's acceptable. It's understandable. I'm not saying that you can't get attached and you can't be upset. I think we all should have our emotions. Like I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't. I didn't feel a type of way when these players left. Like I did feel a type of way when Emmanuel Mosley left. I was like, oh man, I really liked him. I was hoping the Niners sign him, but I know that it's not going to be the end of the world. And I know they'll be able to replace him. But it is tough as a fan. But doing this for many years and following this team so closely over the years, I realize you just can't get attached to him because you're going to lose players all the time, and it definitely sucks. So it definitely sucks. So moving on, let's get to the next part of the day. So we've talked about, of course, Charvarius Ward restructured his contract. That led to Jake Brendel getting signed back to the team 4 years. We lost Manny Mosley. We lost Azeez Al-Shahir. We lost, did we talk about Emmanuel Mosley yet? Oh, we did not talk about Emmanuel Mosley. So I think 49ers media, he just mentioned the Lions losing Mosley hurts the most. Yeah, losing Mosley hurt the most to a lot of people. I think to me that was the biggest surprise of the day. I felt like the 49ers would be able to retain him. And it was a little bit of a shocker to me. He goes to the Lions on a 1-year, $6 million deal. So to me, that tells me the 49ers weren't really willing to pay him a lot of money because of the injury. I think they were going to give him a 1-year, maybe prove it year, $2-3 million deal, which, if I'm Emmanuel Mosley and I see another team giving me $6 million, I guess I'll take the money because at the end of the day, who knows what he's going to be like. He has had a lot of injuries. So I could see, he really worked his way up as an undrafted free agent to go get $6 million. It's a pretty, tempting offer there. So it's tough to lose a guy like Mosley, who I think is just a gritty, tough, hard nosed player. I really like the player he became. Again, undrafted guy. He worked his way up, and he goes and gets $6 million from the Lions. So, that tells me the 49ers probably didn't really offer him, and maybe he saw it as disrespectful, and it's tough. I was a little upset the 49ers couldn't keep him on the team because that does seem a little low. But at the same time, I get it. They have depth, and we saw what Diamador Lenore did last year. My guy, who you know me, I'm a big Diamador Lenore fan. Like I'm probably the president of the Diamador Lenore fan club. I'll admit, I back him up more than anybody out there. And you know, I think they believe in Diamador Lenore. He's going to be a lot cheaper, and then Mosley. He's getting the $6 million contract. Wondering what the full details are. I want to know how much is guaranteed. But Diamador Lenore, a fifth round draft pick. He's in his third year in the league, and he's only going to cost about $1 million against the cap. So whatever Emmanuel Mosley is going to get paid, it's not going to be as much. It's not going to. Diamador Lenore's contract's not going to be as much as Emmanuel Mosley. So big difference. So you got to remember they got to take some cuts in salary a little bit here and there. They're going to have to do that, unfortunately, and that's a move that they're going to have to make. And again, Diamador Lenore going to be a little bit cheaper. But the big takeaway to me about losing Emmanuel Mosley is depth. I want to make sure that the 49ers have enough depth in the secondary. I think we're going to be good because I know we'll stack the D-line, and the more defensive pressure you get, it's going to help the back end. But I do want to make sure they get enough depth because, the 49ers and cornerbacks, depth has not been their friend over the years. And my take over the last couple of years, except last year when they went and got Charvarius Ward, I keep saying every year, I said the 49ers do not put a priority on secondary. They don't prioritize secondary. And if they don't make a depth move in the next couple weeks and they wait till the draft, then our depth might be slim. I mean, I get it. They'll be able to draft some guys, but I want to make sure they get one more veteran going into the draft. I think that's key. I like Lenore. I like Womack, who can step up and take a big leap in the nickel. But we need depth because injuries have happened many times in that cornerback spot, and we've been burned. The year we had to get Josh Norman and Drake Kirkpatrick, I do not want that to happen again. I do not want that to happen again. You know what I mean? I don't want that to happen again. So hopefully the 49ers can go get another cornerback in the market this offseason. And again, maybe another pass rusher. I feel like we need to. But how can the 49ers afford to get another guy, right? Boom. Breaking news earlier today. Let's transition to this news. This was huge news earlier today. Again, they lost players. They lost Manny Mosley. But then the 49ers went out and they did a contract restructure for Fred Warner. Absolutely amazing breaking news a couple hours ago, about 3 hours ago from Field Yates. They restructured his contract. They created $9.5 million in cap space. They converted his salary into a upfront bonus, and they cut it from $18 million to about $9.5 million, creating a $9 million difference, and that goes to their cap space. The 49ers now have about $13 million after they restructured Fred Warner. That was huge. A team-friendly deal, just a few years removed from getting his big contract extension, but that's what the 49ers do. They get these massive contracts, they pay their stars, and then a few years later, they move that money down the line, they restructure them so they can open up space to sign somebody else. And that was an absolute crazy move tonight. That was great. Team-friendly, Fred Warner, the 49er players, they're team-friendly. They make these big deals, and then when they need to, they restructure their money. They get it paid up front. They move the rest towards the end, and then they know they can keep on strengthening their team. And that's what they do. They have these players that buy into their system. They get paid up front. They get paid a lot. They get all this guaranteed money, and then the rest of the money, you move it around. And now the 49ers have $13 million in cap space. And that's where I think they can make another big move. We've talked about edge rusher. We've talked about cornerback. They can still make a move. They can still restructure Christian McCaffrey if they really want to. So the 49ers can take Christian McCaffrey's contract, restructure it, and make even more cap space. Whew, gotta love that. So let's take a look. Is Orlando Brown an option? He's an option, but he specifically has said he wants to play left tackle so he can get paid at that left tackle money, because the left tackle is going to be more value than a right tackle. So that's a whole situation in itself. Would he play right tackle versus left tackle? He wants to get paid like a left tackle. 49ers have the best left tackle in the NFL. So it's a weird situation. Orlando Brown, I don't know, because he's said there's been reports that he's saying he's not a right tackle. He wants to get paid like a left, so he wants to play left so he can get paid like a left. So I'm not sure, but the 49ers could get an edge rusher. They can go get a Frank Clark, Yannick Ngakoue. There's plenty of edge rushers out there that they can go and get right now. I think that would help them out because they do need rushers on the edge. They need defensive ends because they did lose a man who, like we just talked about, or they did lose the next two guys that we're going to talk about, Ebicam and Charles Omenihu. So they need to make sure they can get another edge rusher. I know they have Drake Jackson, who I think will step up, but you need more depth because last year you had Omenihu, you had Ebicam, you had Drake Jackson, you had Jordan Willis, you had Kerry Hyder, who could actually slide outside. And then at times you can kick Armstead out. So you had a lot more depth at the edge rusher. Obviously, Nick Bosa, the greatest in the world. So that's what the Niners need to do. They don't have any depth at the edge. Right now, their two edge rushers are Nick Bosa and Drake Jackson. You obviously need to get more players off the edge. So brings me to the edge players that left tonight: Samson Ebukam and Charles Omenihu. Players, deserve money, and these players really stepped up for the 49ers as rotational players, rotational pass rushers. And again, Chris Kasurik did a wonderful job for these two guys, helped them out, and he got them paid. I will tell you this: Samson Ebukam and Charles Omenihu got massive contracts today. No disrespect, but I think they both got paid more than their market value. But hey, shout out to them. They got their money. I respect it. And Chris Kasurik, though, they better get a Christmas gift for him. They better get him a birthday gift for him, a Valentine's gift for him, a St. Patrick's Day gift for him, a 4th of July gift for him. They better give him a lot of gifts because he got them paid. Chris Kasurik is an absolutely amazing defensive line coach. And let me tell you the contracts that these two guys get. Samson Ebukam had a 3-year deal, $27 million max contract with the Indianapolis Colts. $27 million, and he gets in his first year $11 million with the Colts. His first year, he's going to make $11 million. Would you want the 49ers to pay Samson Ebukam that much for 5 sacks? I like Ebukam, but come on, that is crazy. I guarantee you, if the 49ers were to pay him that much, if we would have had breaking news, the 49ers re-signed Samson Ebukam, 3 years, $27 million, Niner fans would have been flipping out. They would have been like, what is John doing? He burnt the toast he's cooking. John Lynch just burnt the grilled cheese. What is he doing? Oh, my God. And that's why they didn't pay him $27 million with $11 million in his first year. That's crazy. And then Charles Omenihu, he signed with the Chiefs. Charles Omenihu signed with the Chiefs on a 2-year deal worth $20 million. $20 million for Charles Omenihu, who we traded a couple years back for a chicken sandwich from McDonald's. Like, we didn't even get him. We didn't even trade much for him. But Charles Omenihu, I liked him when he was on the team. He was a dog, man. I liked his vibe. But $20 million to the Chiefs, to the Ops, he's basically going to replace Frank Clark. He's replacing Frank Clark. He's a younger option for them because Frank Clark getting a little up there in age. So they replaced Frank Clark with Charles Omenihu. That's exactly what they did. $20 million? $20 million. Would you pay Charles Omenihu $20 million? No way. Go get me Yannick Ngakoue. Oh, my God. He got to like. If the 49ers would have paid that to Omenihu, Niners fans would have been crazy. I'm happy for them. They got paid. Like, hey, Ibukam, Omenihu, I'm so happy you got paid. Chris Kasurik definitely deserves his presence, though. Make sure you write him a Christmas card. A I want a 10-page Christmas card for Chris Kasurik from those two. Crazy, man. Crazy. JR says, what if we swap defensive ends and get Frank Clark? It's possible. It's definitely possible. And then Mimi says, do you think Charles is better than Frank Clark? I don't. I really don't. Frank Clark has proven himself more. He's been consistent. Charles Menahu's still young, but that's the thing. Charles Menahu's younger, so he hasn't had as many years in the league. But Frank Clark is a proven player in the league. I know we don't like Frank Clark because he's been on the Chiefs and we hate him for what he said in the rivalry. But if we're going to be objective and we're not going to have any fandom in it, we're going to take away our fandom. And you look at the player A versus player B. Frank Clark's a better player. Like there's no doubt in my mind. We can't sit here and not realize. We got to be real to ourselves. You got to call a spade a spade. Frank Clark is a better player than Charles Menahu. So. That's it. Bottom line. Frank Clark gives people nightmares. He gives me nightmares. But if he's on my team, I'd support him. Just like when Richard Sherman came to the 49ers, remember? Do you remember how sick you guys felt? You guys remember how sick you guys felt when what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? Do you remember how sick you guys felt when Richard Sherman signed? That's probably how we're gonna feel when Frank Clark signs. When I said when, if he signs. When I just said when. Per source. Yeah, I hated Ryan says I disliked Clark from the Sea Chickens because he was on the Frank Clark, man. This guy went from the Seahawks to the Chiefs. Are two of our most hated teams. Seahawks and the Chiefs. If he comes to the Niners, that'd be crazy. Oh my God. Now we need to pick him up to even the odds. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. I wouldn't be mad if we got Frank Clark. I know there's gonna be fans. He's on the ops. I can't believe it. If we get a good player that can help us win a Super Bowl, I want it to happen. Do you know Frank Clark has won 2 Super Bowls? Give me a guy that has veteran leadership that's won a Super Bowl. Like, honestly, I'm okay with it. I get it. He's beat us before. He was on the Chiefs. He talked crap to us. He was on the Seahawks. But the guy's won a Super Bowl. He's good. Bring him in. Right? SG Sports Talk says, Rod, you're a cool dude. I appreciate you, but you're a cool dude, too. You're an absolutely cool dude. Appreciate you, my man. Philly is becoming my most disliked, says Mimi. Yeah, I've hated Philly since we had to play them in the NFC Championship game. All their talking. But, they made a good move today. They re-signed Bradbury. They needed to because they were losing players. That was a big re-sign for them. Bradbury is big for them. So they were losing some players. Ryan says, like a year ago, weren't there talks the 49ers were working on extending Aziz? What happened to that? My take is they probably went over and they reworked it for Dre Greenlaw instead. Or maybe they asked Greenlaw if he wanted an extension and the money value wasn't what he really wanted. So you got to look into a couple things with Aziz. Aziz probably knew that if he stayed on the 49ers, he'd never be a number 1 linebacker because they have Fred Warner. And there's Dre Greenlaw. And there's always going to be that competition. And he wanted to step out of the shadows and be the number 1 guy. So I'm sure that maybe they wanted to bring him back. Maybe there were some extension talks. But he wanted to be a guy that can say, hey, look, I want to create my own legacy and get paid more. So I think that's what the case was with Aziz. And also, you got to realize where he went. He went to the Titans. He went to a team that has his former, somebody in the front office that he worked with, Rand Carthon, who's their new GM. We don't know what the relation with him is. Maybe he's has a really strong bond with Ryan Carthon. And again, if the 49ers were looking to extend him and Rand was part of that front office, you got to think, okay, Rand was part of the front office that was trying to extend Aziz, and now he's the GM of the Titans. He remembers those talks from last year, and he picked them up and says, hey, you remember last year when we were talking about extending you with the 49ers? Why don't we just give you that money over here with the Tennessee Titans and make you our number one linebacker? I honestly think that's how it went. That's the way I think it went. That's a good question, though, Ryan, because they did extend Greenlaw instead. A couple, in the beginning of the season, they took their guy that they wanted to extend, and I feel they were very happy with making that choice because Dre Greenlaw is really good, and you have a good duo. Sorry, not a good duo, an elite duo with Warner and Greenlaw. So, Bunless Hot Dog says we have a lot of depth at linebacker. Watch and see Aziz can walk for a reason. Yeah, the 49ers do a really good job of, getting the linebackers. So I'm not too worried about that. Do I think Bobby Wagner would join us? I don't think so. Niners need to get an edge rusher, I believe. I mean, Bobby Wagner would be cool, but it's just a luxury at that point. Again, the 49ers need to make sure that other positions, they need an edge rusher, and they need to get cornerback depth, offensive line depth. I would love to have Wagner. He's a great player, but he's not in need. They have two premium linebackers, so it's not a necessary need right now. Ryan says, my best friend, who's a Titans fan, starting to feel better about the Titans. He did. Remember, what did I tell you? Remember, you asked me that, Ryan, in the chat last week. He says, my friend, can you tell him some words of encouragement? And I said, Rand Carthon. I said it to you. I said, Rand Carthon is going to make that team good again. He's going to rebuild it the Niner way. I told you that, man. I'm telling you. I told you. So tell your boy, trust Rand Carthon. They're going to bring some more dogs on that team. They're going to bring some dogs to the Titans. Titans got some dogs from the 49ers. They got Dan Brunskill. They got freaking Aziz Al-Shahir. It's good players, man. So, good stuff, man. Nate Santos, do we clear enough cap space to sign Zadarius Smith? I think we have enough to sign him, honestly. I'll be honest with you. I think we could. But now I think the Vikings have to release him. That's the big key. Will they release him? So I think we could get Zadarius Smith. That would be a money move right there. Can you imagine? If we get a big edge in the next day or two, the 49ers defense is not going to be a joke. It's going to be, oh my God. I mean, it's already good. But if we get another premium edge rusher, it's scary. Because they do need to replace Amenahu and Ebicam. I'm not going to say they don't. So we did lose them. We do need to add some depth on the edge. So it's going to be interesting to see who they got. So I'm coming in clutch for the Titans fans, Ryan. I come in clutch for all the fans. Appreciate y'all. So let's see. I think we got everything. I think we hit everything. So let me just breeze through this real quick. So our recap of the day started with Charvarius Ward restructured his contract. Right? They used that money to go get to get Jake Brendel. Jake Brendel comes back 4 years. And then after that, let's see what else happened. Manny Mosley goes to Detroit. Best of luck to him. The rise of Diamador Lenore is upon us. Aziz Al-Shahir goes to the Titans. The linebacker trio in San Francisco is over. Samson Ebicam got paid $27 million. He's gone to the Colts. Dan Brunskill goes to the Titans. 2-year deal. Fred Warner restructured his contract. They have $9.5 million opened up in cap space because of it. And then Charles Amenahu signs with the Chiefs on a 2-year deal worth $20 million. That's today in a nutshell. What a day. Free agency has been absolutely insane. What do you guys think? How are we feeling? That's it. That's the recap of the day. I think we've had a fun day. Obviously, you lose players, it's not fun. But like I said at the beginning of the show, you're going to lose players. That's how free agency works, and unfortunately, the 49ers, they don't always keep players. They get their middle-tier players, and those middle-tier players eventually go on and leave, and they replace them through the draft, through undrafted players. They have their development, and eventually somebody's going to step up and take the role of those guys that we lost. So Ryan says the Charles signing kind of hurt. I mean, I guess it hit fans hard because he goes to the Chiefs. I think that's why people hate that move, right? Because he goes to the Chiefs. It's kind of like he went to the enemy. Slime season, man. Slime season. 49ers media says we still have not filled out the biggest need of a boombox guy. I'm not going to say if we did or we didn't, but all I know is they pretty much got that figured out. They know what they're doing with that. They know what they're doing with that. But yeah, the boombox guy, man. Hopefully they got a good one. Hopefully they got a good one. That's all I know. Jimmy, it's a good question. A lot of people are asking this question around the Twitter world. Do you think that the 49ers team right now is better than they were at the start of free agency? It's a good question. And I know a lot of people are going to rush to say no because we lost so many players. I think right now the one area where I'm a little concerned is offensive line because I still don't think we have enough depth. We got weaker at a position, I would say, in terms of the overall depth. I mean, we still have a good line, a starting line. You have Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, Colton McKivitz, but I'm not too sold on Colton McKivitz. But again, we'll see how that goes. And if he pans out, you still need depth. You know, you have young guys, Nick Zakel, Jason Poe, you have Jalen Moore, but that's really your depth. So I still need them to kind of develop that offensive line depth. I feel we got weaker in that area. Um, Secondary, I'm okay with because I think Manny Mosley, he was good, but he didn't really play much last year. I hate to say it, he did miss many games. After the towards ACL against Carolina, and then he wasn't there the rest of the season. So, in a sense, I don't think we got too much worse in the secondary because Jimmy Ward didn't play a full season. Tashawn Gibson was there. We brought him back. I mean, I guess you can say, yeah, we did get worse in the department because we need more depth. And overall, I guess if you're looking at just on the surface level from today, yeah, we probably got worse. But you got to remember, we still haven't even got to the end of free agency. It's only day 2 of the legal tampering period. So I still think there's a lot more moves to come. Solidifying that center role with Jake Brendel was very good. And, we have a good quarterback situation, I think, as long as Brock gets healthy and Trey can take that next step. And I think Sam Darnold's a nice third string quarterback. So that situation's good. Offensive players, I'm not worried about. But, we need to get edge depth. That was definitely a hit right there. But I think with Fred Warner's restructure, the 49ers are in place to go ahead and fill those holes that, are missing. And then we need a kicker. We're forgetting about that. I think they'll address that in the draft because we still do need a kicker. But overall, to answer the question, are we better now than we are at the start of free agency? Absolutely not, because we still need to fill those holes. We lost players, we have to replace them. It depends on how they replace those players. And we won't know until the end of the week. But right now, I'll say we aren't better because we did lose several key players, But we have 11 picks in the draft. We still have some cap space after restructuring Fred Warner. I think we ain't done yet. But that's a really good question, actually. That is a good question. But you got to realize it's a sprint, not a marathon, or sorry, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? You got to take your time. It's patience, and everything will work out in the end. We just got to be patient. I think we're all worried. I think we all want all our moves to be solved right now. We just want it to go. We just want them to figure it all out in one night. But you got to have patience. You got to take your time. So let's see. 49ers throwback says we took a step back on O-line and D-line. Missing piece, pass rush, edge rusher. The team has to play 17 games, including playoffs. We need some fresh legs on the D-line. Yeah, I think that's a good way to summarize it is we need depth on those positions. Offensive line, we need depth in the cornerback area, the secondary. You need depth on the D-line. So, and that's what I kept saying is we don't have the depth that we had last year, especially on the O-line, because if there is an injury, it is a 17-game season. If there is an injury, I'm a little concerned about some of these guys. So to me, yes, we did take a step back. We need to make sure we have some depth on those positions. But overall, I'm not worried because it's only day 2, so it's hard to say are we better or worse at this point because it's just barely getting started, the free agency period. Honestly, tomorrow's actually the real start of free agency, the technical day. So I still think we're not even touching the surface of where we're going to be by the end of the week or two. So have some patience. Definitely a good question. We can talk about that literally all day. That there's a lot of points to be made in that question there. So good stuff. Nate says losing Brunskill was tough. I agree. I didn't, I thought that was, again, what I said earlier was I think Dan Brunskill was probably the biggest loss of the day. Jay Rip says, I have a feeling that Jake Moody won't be there for us to draft. I think some other team will get him before we do. It's very possible. He's a very good kicker. One of the best kickers coming out of the draft in a long time. And if Jake Moody gets drafted and we don't take him, I don't know if we should take another rookie. There's good rookies in the draft, but I feel like so confident in Jake Moody if we were to draft him. But, 49ers definitely have to figure out that kicker position. Robbie Gould hasn't signed yet. I have heard rumors that he might try to re-sign with the Niners. He's negotiating. He's weighing his options, but I don't know. It's just a rumor I've heard, so we'll see. We'll see. Ryan says, why do people think we're going to trade Trey? For clout, for clicks, for views, to push a narrative. People just like to talk, man. People like to create that stir up drama, stir up clout. People don't like Trey. That's what they do. They're just trying to stir up drama. Mimi says, I think we took a loss with Ward and Brunskill. Other players were depth players, and we played all season without Mosley. Still had a winning record. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think we, again, didn't really have Mosley in most of the season. Ward was tough because he's a veteran leader. He's a clubhouse guy. He was longest tenured Niner. And, losing a guy like that definitely sucks. Brunskill was a Swiss Army knife. Both of those guys, Ward and Brunskill, were both Swiss Army knife players. You can put them all over the roster. Those guys were great. And one thing, man, the stat, or I don't know if it's necessarily a stat, but the thing with Jimmy Ward, I think this is what the craziest part of losing Jimmy Ward was to me, was the fact that he was the last remaining connection to the Jim Harbaugh era. Like, it's crazy. He lasted many eras, dude. He went from Jim Harbaugh to Jimmy Tomsula to Chip Kelly to Kyle Shanahan. Jimmy Ward was an OG, man. He was there for a long time, and Jimmy's gonna be missed. He's a great leader. I definitely think that was a huge loss because of the fact that he's just such a good quality leader, and he's been there for everything. He's been there through a lot. He's been there through a lot, man. So, but Robert, I agree. It's time for the younger players to step up, out with the old and in with the new. When you lose those older, veteran, crusty players, the new, young, fresh players get to take their chance. The new wave, the new era. So it's a interesting time of the year when you lose players and you get new guys, and it's an exciting time for the new players, and it's a bittersweet time for those older players. But that's football. That's the game. That's the business, and we love it. Day, do I think we sign OBJ because BA's on his last year? No, I think we're gonna pick Brandon Ayuk's fifth-year option. We'll extend him eventually. We're gonna be fine. I don't think we pick up OBJ, but I wouldn't mind. Jimmy Ward was the definition of a 49er, says SG. Ah, man, he really was, man. That guy was Niner through and through. He was tough. He was just clubhouse guy. He did whatever he could for the team. He took a pay cut. He took a pay cut to stay from the Niners, man. Crap, man. Bloodman says Defoe's throwing shade. Yeah, I saw that. I saw a post. A couple people have posted about that. I think NBC Bay Area posted an article about it, that Defoe was throwing shade, saying it was funny because it was a similar, because the contract that Javon Hargrave was similar to what he wanted. I love Defoe, but he's got to let it go. The Niner fans got to let it go. It happened. It is what it is. There was a lot of politics when that went down. There's a lot of behind the scenes when that went down. I'm sure Defoe would have loved to stay here. I'm sure that John Lynch wishes he didn't make that trade. I'm sure that both parties wish that it would have went down a different way. Defoe was amazing, but it is what it is, man. You just gotta let it go, man. Both parties gotta let it go. But yeah, I saw that article. It's unfortunate. You can't change the past. You can't change anything. DeForest Buckner got paid. At the end of the day, he got paid. He should be happy he got the bag, man. It's tough. Would I love to have kept DeForest Buckner? Absolutely. You're damn straight. I love the guy. He was amazing. But, tough decision. John Lynch probably took it. That was one of his biggest L's he took as a GM. But you win some, you lose some, you take some gambles. But I'm not gonna, sit here and cry about it because I still know people that are so bitter, just so angry. You bring that topic up and they go on a rant, and you're just like, dude, just let it go. I'm not even gonna get into all the, oh, we could, we kept this guy, we kept that guy. We all know what happened. We all know what could have happened. We all know 49ers knew they couldn't trade Armstead because he wouldn't have got the same value as Buckner. They, it was a move where they tried to take advantage of a whole situation and maximize everything for them. Draft pick wise, like we always talk about, the 49ers draft good. They wanted to draft well. They wanted to get their get more bang for their buck, keep a few players, take a few dollar hits here. They liked Armstead for the person he was, pay him the money. It happened, and do I wish again? Do I wish we would have kept DeForest Buckner? Absolutely. Did they miss astronomically on Javon Kinlaw? Absolutely. The guy he's a massive bust. I love the guy, great player. In terms of who he is as a human being, he's worked his ass off, but he's not DeForest Buckner, and they made a mistake. They thought they could replace him with Kinlaw, and they were wrong, and they learned, and they admitted they were wrong by signing Javon Hargrave this week. Sorry, by getting him, they righted their wrong. To me, they righted their wrong. If Javon Hargrave comes in and has 10 sacks this year, and we're all good. We Gucci. So, love it. And Jimmy hit it right on the head. This right here is the biggest takeaway. If Kinlaw wasn't a bust, we wouldn't even be upset. Nobody would even be batting two eyes. But the problem was Javon Kinlaw was an absolute bust. That's what it comes down to, Jimmy. And that 100% is the biggest takeaway, man. This is a good comment. He says, let's be honest, it would have been a good trade if Kinlaw wasn't a bust. If Kinlaw wasn't a bust, we're good, man. Everything would be fine. But that's, I think, the issue that makes everybody so mad, that he was a bust. And now people are like, oh, he shouldn't have got rid of Kinlaw. But if he was not a bust and he stayed healthy and he was dominating, we'd be good. Nobody would bat an eye. So Ryan says, I'm not sure if Kinlaw is a bust. He just hasn't stayed healthy. That, in definition, is a bust. He's a medical bust. He's a bust because he hasn't been able to stay on the field. And when he does play, he doesn't look good because he hasn't developed. He hasn't been able to learn the techniques. He's a big hulking guy. He's a monster, big dude, but he doesn't have technique. He doesn't have the technique because he hasn't had enough time to develop. He's always recovering from injury. So he doesn't have, when he's out there practicing and rehabbing, that's what he's doing. He's just recovering from an injury and making sure he can stay on the field. But he's not spending the time to re-hone his skills and developing as a player. I'm sure he's out there, training, and you see him every day. I know he's out there training, but it's different because he's training to make sure he's on that field. He hasn't been able to take that next leap and develop a technique. He's just so strong. In college, he was bigger and stronger than everybody. In the NFL, he's not. And he can't just beat everybody by sheer strength, brute force. Look at Nick Bosa. He's not the biggest guy. He's definitely in shape, great shape. He's chiseled, but he's short, stocky kind of guy. Definitely like massive, but he's not like huge. He's not hulking like Kinlaw. But he knows how to beat people on technique, leverage, and he slithers through people. He is strong, but he knows the technique, and that's what what separates Kinlaw from a guy like, someone else that is doing good, like Hargrave, like DeForest Buckner, like Aaron Donald. Those guys are elite on the interior. Whereas Javon Kinlaw hasn't got to that point because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And obviously, injuries. Kinlaw was dealing injuries with knee in college. Knee injuries are unpredictable. They are unpredictable, but he did have a lot of injuries through college. I feel like there was some red flags there, and they should have looked into that a little bit more. He had a lot of red flags. He did have knee injuries in college, but they saw through it and they looked at the potential and how big he was and what he could have been. But unfortunately, because of those injuries, it prevented him from hitting his ceiling. But it's unfortunate. But they got us Javon Hargrave, and I'm happy, and I'm hyped, and I'm excited. So let's see what happens moving forward. I can't believe we've been on for an hour and the 49ers didn't make any moves. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a little. I thought we were gonna make a move. I thought we were gonna make a move tonight, but it's still early. It's 10 o'clock West Coast time, and we'll see what happens. I might not sleep tonight. We shall see. But any case, that's it for tonight. Nice little hour recap. It's been a long day. It's been a fun 2 days. Again, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you for hopping in on the show. And, all week, appreciate you for all the support. Stay locked in. Whatever news drops, we'll be here. And hopefully the news doesn't drop at 3 a.m. because at 3 a.m., I probably will be sleeping. But John Lynch, don't be dropping news at no 3 a.m. I need some sleep. Coffee ain't going to keep me up forever. But, anyways, you guys have a good rest of your night. Appreciate you. That's the recap for day 2. And I can't wait for day 3. Hey, you guys have a good rest of your night. Get some rest. Don't stay up late. I'll stay up late for you. Have a good night. Love you. Have a good night. Oh, real quick. Ryan, he says, what will you be streaming McAfee show on? I don't know yet. I will. Real quick, let's get to that. Tomorrow, Aaron Rodgers is going to go on the McAfee show, and he might make his, he might do his little, it's his LeBron moment. It's his announcement, probably. That's my guess. I said it a couple days ago when I was with Jake on Instagram. I said my prediction is Aaron Rodgers will make his prediction on the McAfee show. I thought it was gonna be Tuesday because he always goes on Tuesday, but it's gonna be tomorrow. They announced today. I want to stream it. I'm gonna stream it. So if you guys are busy or whatever, I'll be live. I don't know what I'm gonna stream it on yet, though. I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll cast it to my TV and then stream it from there. We'll see. I'll figure out, but I'll stream the McAfee show so we could all watch it together, and we'll talk about it later. So, y'all have a good day. What a diva. He's a diva, man. Unbelievable. He's getting my views. Give me his views. I love y'all. Have a good night.